Hello and welcome again to the Dream Family Conference. And today I have with me Frank Dixon, who has written a series of books, Best Parenting Books, a collection of works, a parenting and child development specialist. Frank Dixon is going to tell us all about himself today. Welcome, Frank Dixon. Let's hear what you have to tell us about your personal experience and then how that has led you to write a series of parenting books.
Hi, Ramona. Thank you so much for having me. So yes, a large part of my parenting style, which is, positive parenting, is largely based on my experience in my childhood. Unfortunately, in my case, I did experience lying, cheating, stealing, affairs, and conditional love, all of which are not conducive to effective and positive parenting. But the good thing is that I was able to see past all of that and learn from it, and actually apply a lot of my experience and knowledge to raising my own daughter, who's 9 years old. And I've got a great kid, and I just want to share that with the world. And Best Parenting Books and my collection has been growing and doing extremely well. And I've been helping many parents, and I hope to continue spreading that message with the knowledge from my books, and teaching parents positive and effective ways for positive discipline, and teaching healthy ways of advocating for effective and good communication, and effective ways to raise them into successful adults.
That's exciting. Something every parent would like for their child. So I would like you to share some of those experiences with your own child that you tested out your parenting.
Sure. So, the thing about parenting is that it's important to remember that there is no manual that comes when parents or a parent has their child. Every situation is unique. There is no one size fits all. So my books are meant as a guide to take what you want from them and to apply those strategies. And for me, I had a complicated relationship with my daughter's mother. So I am in a circumstance where I have a separated family. But that is totally fine, because my daughter is a very happy and healthy kid, and she's doing just fine. So it doesn't matter what situation a family is in. But there is not it's not always a perfect family. Most cases it's not. And the point is that these strategies work for any type of situation or family. The first thing that I want to talk about, which came as a surprise and frustration to me, is that you can't have complete control. So for me, it was about letting go. The notion that you can control your child to be super successful and be the next Elon Musk or Bill Gates. I mean, it's just not like that. We don't have full control. They're going to be in school. They're going to be with their friends. We're not going to always be in their presence. So we have to acknowledge that concept and understand it and be okay with it. And that will greatly help in the positive parenting process. And another important thing when raising my daughter is to engage. Now, I am an extremely busy person. So, I also do real estate. I write books. I have other websites. I have so much going on, and it's very easy. And I'm sure so many parents can relate to this, where they just get so involved with all their busyness that they forget about their children. And it's important that we remember to incorporate them into our lives, whether that be work or we're at home and working. We have to give them attention, because not doing so, it really affects their self-worth, self-esteem. Um, and we just have to have an inclusive family. Make sure that they have that confidence and that attention, so they can have a good upbringing. So part of that, which is a good segue, is limited talk at the family table. There are, some families, they just, head down, and just eating. And for me, whenever I have dinner with my daughter, um, I'm talking about things. How is school? How are you doing? What are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And it's important to also not to overdo that, because we don't want our children to feel like we're micromanaging every aspect of their life. Like, my daughter will come to me and say to me, like, why are you asking me all these questions? you know, what is it with you, Dad? I'm fine. I'm fine. But the important thing is that when she's a teenager, and I'm sure things are not going to be always 100% fine, that past experience of setting that foundation, that I was there, I always cared, is going to increase the likelihood and chance that when she does have an issue, that she's going to come to me and be comfortable and open up to me and say, hey, Dad, I really need help with this. And I'll be so happy she did that, because oftentimes, our children keep things from us. They don't tell us things. When a child is, my daughter, in my own experience, it was a horrible experience. She was bullied in first grade by a fourth grader. Really awful experience. But the thing was about it is that she didn't tell her mom for an entire month. So my daughter was being bribed, being given chips to not tell her parents, which she never got. And all this time on the bus, there was no bus monitor. And she was just getting choked out, and it was awful. It did get resolved. She did finally come when it got so bad she couldn't take it anymore. But, so important that constantly checking in with the well-being of our kids and making sure that they're okay, and advocating for open dialogue and communication. Another important thing, and sometimes, I get very stressed out from work, and it's so tempting for us as parents to want to just like shout or yell, like, stop it, leave me alone, not right now. I think it's something like children hear the word no about on average 400 times a day. And it's really, really not good. It really affects them in a negative way. Studies show that when we are yelling or use a form of punishment as discipline, what it does is it leads to mentally unstable, aggressive, and antisocial adults, which we do not want as parents. And this doesn't mean always giving in, but rather finding ways to say, hey, we can't do this because, give reasons, not rejections. Another important thing is I always give my daughter choices, whether that be, what do you want to eat for dinner? What it does is it stimulates their minds, children's minds, and makes them feel that, they have a choice, and that's a very important thing. Doing it one way, like either this or nothing, is just not effective, doesn't work. Choices is always the better way to go. setting healthy boundaries, teaching that at an early age is very important. How we interact with each other, what we do and do not do, whether it be within our family or with other people in the public, uh, establishing what boundaries are, what healthy boundaries are, and implementing that. Very important.
It sounds like
Um,
you talk a lot with your daughter.
I do. I am constantly talking with her. It's so important. I can't stress that enough. Um, it's, it's so easy to get carried away with our lives and what we're doing, and just and just to say, hey, kids will be kids, and it's like, no, kids, we are the model. They will largely become what we are. So one thing that I like to think about, and a challenge for me, is, you know, uh, you know, sometimes when I'm having a particularly bad day, and children, they notice these things, of course. So my daughter will say, "Hey, Dad, why are you sad?" Um, and number one, it's important to try to always be the positive model, even on our not best of days. Obviously, it's not always possible, but we try to do our best as parents to be happy and show them, that we are positive and strong, and uh, and so one of the things, actually, uh, Dr. Daniel Siegel, who wrote the book The Whole Brain Child, has a very interesting concept, which is use it or lose it, which is engaging with the top part of the brain responsible for thinking. So I take those opportunities when it's, maybe not a particularly positive interaction with my daughter, and pivot that into something more engaging. So I ask her, well, what makes you think that I'm sad? How do you know that I'm sad? What does a sad person look like? What can I do to not be sad? So shifting that, and creating something positive from it, is a good strategy. Um, Another thing that I do, and I actually just got this recently from my daughter, is teaching about uh, financial responsibility, being fiscally responsible. Something that I didn't really learn, or my parents didn't talk about at all as a child. Extremely crucial, and something that I am currently working on a book on, writing. I think that would be a good one that would be extremely helpful to parents. So that is in the works. But the key takeaway from that point is, when we spend lavishly as parents, some of us do. I know sometimes it's tempting to. We want to, give our children everything or things that we didn't have. But it's important that we think about, the impact that has, right? So spending lavishly, what does that do? It advocates for poor spending, of course. We want to teach budgeting, saving early on. The whole marshmallow test, where a child is given, either you can have one now, or you can have two if you wait 10 minutes. Teaching that waiting, being financially responsible, extremely crucial, especially in adulthood. So we have to establish that early on. Um, uh, Another thing that is a good one to talk about. So my daughter, I got her into, so this is about a year or two ago. She was doing karate, which she was super excited about. And she did it for about a year. And about 6 months in, she had a semi-traumatic experience where an older kid she was paired up with, there weren't very many kids that day, and this older kid thought it would be a good idea to do some type of submission on her. And he was choking her pretty badly, and putting a lot of pressure on her neck. And a teacher did step in and stop it. But she was pretty shooken up from that experience. And, I did try to motivate her and encourage her to keep going. But she kept saying, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. And I respected that. And I said, you know what? That's okay. Let's move on to something else. And we got her into gymnastics, and she loves it. And she's a fantastic dancer. So when children not overdoing extracurriculars, give children the opportunity and time to do things and find things that they want to do on their own. That is very important. Another very important thing. So my daughter recently got her report card, and as parents, schools and education, of extreme importance, and so many of us have that mindset that this determines, where our children are going to go, what they're going to be like in their future. This is going to be their entire life. The grades, the grading system. This is all of it. This is everything. And we talked about this before, Ramona. Dr. Howard Gardner. So he identified 8 different types of intelligences, including spatial, musical, botanical, bodily, and logical or mathematical, and linguistic. And I know from my daughter's report card that she was struggling a bit with math and reading, and I was slightly disappointed. So it was on a 1 to 5 grading system, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. She got mostly 3s and 4s, but in reading and math she got 2s. So that's the first thing that I and other parents, sometimes we look at the weak points, and we get upset and we're like, come on, but the thing is that, remember that these standardized tests are, for the most part, 1 intelligence, mathematical and logical. There are 7 other intelligences. So to say, hey, forget about, we have to remember that there are 8 total, 7 other intelligences that are not fully utilized for the most part in most of school. So with that said, it's so important to focus on what our child is strong in, strengthening the weak points. Albert Einstein did not speak until age 4. He didn't read until age 9. That being weak in one area does not mean our children are failures at all. I know, because I struggled with very similar things as my daughter does. She has trouble focusing in school. I did as well. I didn't do great in math, but you know what? I turned out okay. So we have to focus on the strong points, what their strong areas in, identify the weak points, and do our best to help them to do better in those. Another thing that I noticed that was pretty interesting, that my daughter started from a young age and still sometimes does. She's gotten better with this, but sometimes this coincides with sharing, and also just being interaction with others. My daughter would just give things away, like, oh, here, you can have this, or you can have this. Here, take my entire lunchbox. So and we would be like, yeah, why did you do that? And she would be like, oh, well, I just thought it would make her happy. So we kind of have to identify these behaviors that can have negative impacts, and help our children to better understand, like, yes, it's good to share, but that was your lunch. You need to eat too. They have their own lunch. They don't need it. Um, Rather than just giving toys away to share, which can be very upsetting, um, I tell my daughter, why don't you trade or exchange one of your toys for something else so you have something else to play with? And as adults, we don't just give away our possessions and say, hey, I mean, obviously, close friends, we let them borrow, but to just, go up to any random person and say, to give them something we're very attached to and say, hey, you can have this. I mean, if we don't do that, why should we teach our children to do that? So very important to remember that. um, uh, Another important thing that I've already started on, and I started actually about 2 to 3 years ago, is, and my parents didn't do this to me until I was older, but talking about the dangers of drugs early on is very, very important. It's easy to think and have that notion that, oh, well, that's kind of like, an adult thing. There's no need to talk about it. Like, I'll worry about that when they're a teenager. And that's just not the case. Every year, these things are just becoming more and more the norm and common. And children have much easier access to the internet. Um, and so there's a lot of inappropriate content going around, whether they see it at home or through a friend. So even more so now, more than ever, so important that we make our children aware of the dangers of drugs. So at an early age, they have that notion and belief instilled that this is a bad thing. And they know about it, and that will carry them through their teenage and adult years, uh, greatly reducing the chances that they will engage with um, illegal drugs and anything bad like that. Um, so those are the the biggest things that come to mind that have benefited my daughter. She's done extremely well. Uh, she's a very happy child. She is very trusting of me. Um, I would say she's a very strong-willed child. Um, she has good confidence. I mean, there's areas to work in. I'd like her to be a little bit more confident, but again, every family situation is different. Every child is different. There is no handbook. Our children have their own genetics. We don't have full control. So we have to remember all of these elements. There is no perfect system or way of doing things. There's only implementing strategies that are proven and effective and give us better chances that we will bring about a successful and happy family with healthy, successful, strong willed, and confident children.
Well, there's no doubt that you have put a lot of thought in this because of your own experience growing up and having an unstable childhood. And I think awareness is obviously one of the very first things that people need to know, because you don't know it all until you just don't know it all. You start getting kids and it's like a whole new set of skills that you just haven't grown up with, or haven't had to have in any other kind of situation. So it's those are some excellent points. And with that, we're getting close to our half hour. But do you have any other piece of advice that you would like to give to parents, that besides all the amazing things you already said? Anything else come to your mind?
I would just say it's so important that we listen to our children. Oftentimes, sometimes we, discount or don't really take into full consideration what they're saying. We want to listen to them, make them feel heard, understood. All of these things affect their confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, um, everything. And also paying close attention to your child. Don't ever disregard science. If you think that your child may have a disorder of any sort, seek medical advice from a doctor. Check in to see what they have to say. Depression, I know for a fact, runs in my family. My parents never said that. They told me, "You're fine. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful." And I didn't have the best life in the world. I didn't have the worst. But I know that is something that was an uncontrollable chemical imbalance in my brain that I take medication to this day for, that helps me live a better livelihood. And had I known about it and it was addressed at a younger age, I do believe that would have greatly helped me. So, my advice is to not disregard, things that might be medical related. Check in with doctors, see what they say. Um, I know that our doctors believe that my daughter has uh, attention deficit disorder, ADHD, and that's not something that we're upset or sad about. It's something that we better helps us to better understand our daughter and how to better raise her, to help better assist her in school. She has a special a teacher that helps her with uh, to better understand concepts that she struggles with when she has trouble focusing in class. So it's just understanding, because if we negate these things, it all it does is impact, and it doesn't have a good impact on our child education. And we want to give them the best education. We want to give them the best upbringing, and we want to give them the best chance to be as successful as they possibly can when they reach adulthood.
It's absolutely correct. And we know how much that helps our own adulthood when we've already been prepared with so many of those things that you talked about to face the real world. Well, thank you so much for all you said today, Frank. And I want to encourage everybody. We have included, of course, in the information how to contact, his website, where he's got so many wonderful resources, and looking over his book collection. I know that you'd be greatly benefit by getting some of those books yourself. So once again, thank you, Frank, for your time today. And we'll talk to you in the future, I hope.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ramona.